Hey guys, we are back for another Marvel Legends review, taking a look at my most anticipated of the Legendary Riders figures, I guess since this line started. We're taking a look today at the big bald man himself. We have got Professor X finally. So this guy comes in the larger format Rider style box. You see him there in the big window. We've got our 80 years logo in the bottom, X-Men logo front and center, and then the back of the package has got a bio for Charles. We've got product shots, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff that shows all of his accessories and all the doodads that this guy comes with. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. Alright guys, and here he is out of the box and fully assembled, our Professor X figure. And right off the bat, there is without a doubt almost zero chance that this guy is not going to be on my top 10 Legends for the year. I just don't see how they can really do so much better that he's going to be out of the top 10. This is by all accounts, a pretty phenomenal figure in its own right. The action figure is pretty solid just for a, quote-unquote regular old guy. But the entire package here is pretty stellar. The little bonus accessory they threw in is a really nice touch, and just everything about this really does it for me. So we're going to take a look at, I guess, the whole package here. The figure is, of course, a figure, so we'll take a look at Professor X on his own, and then we'll talk about how it all integrates. So for Charles himself, you have got kind of a standard figure here, all things considered. And I don't have a single Marvel Legends figure that is one of the kind of generic suit bodies. So this one's actually kind of new to me, and I frankly have no idea if this is reuse of any kind. I mean, I'm sure it is, but it doesn't even begin to matter to me. So we'll take a look at articulation and then just kind of go over the general aesthetics here. So we've got a head that can go up and down, really good range of motion there, nothing in the way. And then, of course, you've got full rotation. Arms go out, they rotate, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. You have got rotating and hinging wrists. He's got an ab crunch, so he goes backwards and forwards. It's ratcheted, so you've got those clicks there, which is nice, but it is, because of that, he is kind of bobbly, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, I don't ever see myself really having him out of the chair. So it's a thing, but it's not a problem for me personally. You've got a waist twist, legs go out, they kick forward, they kick back. Well, they don't really, but, it's a toy, so the toy does. Thigh swivel, you've got a double jointed knee, and then you've got rocker, and you got hinge down there at those ankles. So he's pretty well articulated. I mean, it's exactly what I would kind of expect to see from a suit body, so it works really well. Where it really does it for me, though, is just the general look on this guy. So he is, of course, in kind of a standard suit, and you've got him in this kind of forest dark green color scheme with brown shoes. The suit just looks really nice. It's got nice wrinkles in certain places. The jacket part is a rubbery piece that sits over the buck, which is the shirt, and then you've got the black and blue tie, which is a separate piece, so it's kind of a rubbery free-floating tie. He does have two distinct hands, so one is, almost like a, like a force touch kind of hand, if for lack of a better word, and then you've got the two fingers to the temple kind of thing. So you can have him doing his kind of quintessential pose, which I just love every bit of that. I think it's fantastic. I really, really like that, because that's what everybody wants to do with Professor X. That's the thing, and they supplied exactly what you need for all of his kind of signature looks. And then, of course, you have got this head sculpt, which I think it's pretty stellar. I think they really knocked it out of the park. You've got the kind of raised eyebrow, which works really well in conjunction with the two-finger pose for that hand. And I just think it looks very much like a comic book accurate Professor X, a very 90s looking Professor X. I get a very animated look out of this particular figure. Of course, there's no hair or anything like that, but it's a very, very clean head sculpt. And I have really no issues with this figure at a figure level, at a base level, except for the bobble action at that ab crunch. But again, like I said, you're not really going to see this guy standing on my shelf. This is how you're going to see him on my shelf. You're going to see him in his chair, in his very, very 90s hover chair, and this thing just does it for me on so many levels, from just the toy playability level to the nostalgia factor. This thing is just fantastic. I really, really like it. It is pretty sparse when it comes to paint, but I could probably fill in these panel lines really, really easily. It does have that nice marbly metallic plastic that I personally like. I know that some people don't care for it, but I really do like it. You do have to put this thing together. It's very, very simple. It comes in 2 halves, so you can see the seam line down the middle. You just pop it together, and then you've got the cushion on the back that you plug in, and it kind of gives it some stability. There's a seat cushion, so you put that in, and then of course you've got the effect piece down here that plugs into a port on the bottom, so it gives it the lift. It acts as a built-in stand, but then it gives it that effect that shows kind of like the repulsor that lifts it off the ground as he's kind of taking off in it, which I think is fantastic. I really like that attention to detail. I like the fact that we have a stand as well, because it's really nice to elevate him and bring him up to height with some of the other Marvel Legends who are going to be standing next to him. Of course, you do have a lot of sculpt on this thing, and it is quite large too. I mean, you can see that it is roughly the entire height of a full Marvel Legends figure, and it's really beefy, it's really girthy. You'll see some other pictures with some other figures as well, and it's got some details down here, but there's a lot of sculpt in it, just not a lot of paint really. You do have some little doodads down here. There's more sculpt on the back. Push that together a bit more, and then you've got another one down there. There is a little bit of paint on the effect piece as well, kind of a frosted look, so it's not just 100% clear or 100% white. It does have some, like an airbrushed air effect almost. Let me get your tie right there, Professor. And then, of course, you do have his blanket that you have over his legs. This piece in here, you just kind of drop it in on top of him. It's just a piece of kind of maroon plastic, and you drop it in there, and it, you know, gives him like that FDR look, sort of. That's wrong. So you've got a really fantastic piece here. This is, without a doubt, my favorite entry in the entirety of this Legendary Riders line. I've not really been a big fan of this subline, personally, because I don't need a million motorcycles on my shelves. But this is the one that I knew we were going to get. You knew that they were going to make it, and I think they really went all out on this particular figure, because it does have a little more to it as well. It actually has some moving parts. So the control panel over here opens up on both sides. So there's more painted detail in there, a lot of sculpt in there. Just the idea that they would do that is really nice. You know, that's one of those things that they could have cheaped out on, and they didn't. So just from a looks perspective, I think this thing is an absolute winner. But when you take in all of the pieces from the fact that it has the plastic that I like personally, moving parts, it has a nice size to it, and it has a cool effect piece, it's just a great package. Now, we do have some actual accessories, because I do not in any way count the chair as an accessory. So you've got the controversial accessory here. So you've got the Cerebro helmet that you can pop on Charles's head, and I think it's really nicely sculpted. It's got good detail, not a great deal of paint because it's just a silver helmet, but I think the sculpt is there and it fits his head really nicely. And then it has a peg hole in the back for this. This is supposed to be kind of the telepathy effect as it kind of reaches out of his head, out of Cerebro, to you know, manifest itself. And the idea, I think, is there. It's, you know, a nice milky white color plastic, and you know what you're thinking, you know what I'm thinking. This is definitely a very odd accessory. It is something that had to have just not been mentioned when they were making this figure, because everybody instantly had their opinion on what this thing looks like. I think they could have gone a different way, maybe. This is not exactly what I want to display him with, so hopefully someone will make a third-party piece for this. But I do applaud them for the effort. I like the idea behind it, but I think it's maybe a little too adult for this particular toy. There is another accessory, though, that does not necessarily go with Charles. It is related, but it's not, and that would, of course, be the Shadow King head that goes on your Kingpin Build-A-Figure. So you've got this head, and this is like the more classic style Shadow King head from his original early appearances, which I'm not too keen on. I never really cared for the big, you know, big fat guy kind of Shadow King look. I always liked the one from the cartoon, but that's neither here nor there. The paint and the sculpt on this thing's really nice. The, you know, the little fez that's on his head, the glasses are removable, so you can pop them off, and you've got his beady red eyes in there. So I like the idea behind it. I really like what they do when they give you this extra stuff, kind of like they did with Archangel for Apocalypse, to kind of beef up your Build-A-Figure. You know, because there's someone out there who has Kingpin that maybe doesn't want him, but would like to have a Shadow King. So I think that's kind of a cool idea. I just don't know that I ever personally need it, but I do think it's pretty cool. And then, of course, you know, there's folks out there that have gone the extra step and cannibalized their Monster Venom and replaced the hands on this guy to give him a more menacing look, because that's one of the looks for the Shadow King, is those big, dark, spindly fingers, and I think that works really well. You won't see me doing that, but I do think it's nice, and I like the idea behind this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, this is exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I needed. I think at a base level, even Professor X on his own is a really solid figure. He does, of course, have my one real negative about this set is that he's really wobbly. But once you get him in that chair, it really doesn't make a difference. And he's never... well, he's probably never going to leave the chair for me. The only other maybe questionable thing is that effect piece, which, while I like the thought and idea behind it, it is kind of funky looking. It's not exactly what I wanted, but I do applaud the effort. Otherwise, this is truly a must-have piece for an X-Men collector when it comes to Marvel Legends. He is the main guy when it comes to X-Men, obviously, so you have to have Professor X, and thankfully Hasbro did a bang-up job on this one. I really love the figure on its own, and I absolutely love this hover chair. This really feels like a more premium piece. This really feels like one that is actually worth the full $40 to me. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Professor X. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.